Trump returns as he speaks at CPAC America. Biden announces that America is back as he bombs Syria. And Craig Kelly resigns from the Liberal Party as he joins the crossbench. I'm Jammal, and welcome back to The Arc. What a week. Oh my gosh. The left are going crazy, and it's really entertaining. Trump is back, and in their books, Voldemort's back, and he who must not be named. And it's been absolutely entertaining watching them explode over this. I mean, CNN reported that Trump unleashes a new threat to American democracy. Mind you, the mainstream media are crashing right now. I don't know if you noticed. CNN's ratings actually crashed 40% on Inauguration Day. And it's been incredibly entertaining because they're upset. It seems like they're upset, but they're not. I mean, their ratings have been crashing without Trump. And now that they've got the golden goose back, and because it's his first speech since he left office, they can't let go of him. And it's really entertaining because it's a love-hate relationship, and it's bad for the country, really, if we're being honest, because it's just tearing the fabric of the country apart with the media and their dishonest reporting. But it's entertaining because now that he's back, he outlaid a vision for America, and that's something I sort of want to discuss with you guys. There's been a bit of a civil war going on in the Conservative Party in America, the Republican Party. As you know, they tried and failed last week to impeach the president. There were a number of senators and House members that tried to impeach, and they voted to impeach. Unfortunately, they didn't have enough votes. They needed a majority in the House, which they got. But they didn't get the 2/3 majority in the Senate, which is what they needed to make sure that he doesn't run again, even though he's not in office again. But despite all that, he's back. He outlaid a very interesting speech at CPAC. Now, CPAC is a sort of conservative action committee. It's a big conference. It's massive. It goes back to Ronald Reagan's days, a past US president. CPAC was really good at generating hype, and it's sort of like the Super Bowl of American politics for conservatives. They love to go to these things and express ideas and debate ideas. And it's been very interesting to watch that over the last few days, watch the rolling coverage. As you guys know, I helped with organising the Sydney version of that. It is an international thing. They also have it in Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea as well. And it's an amazing event. It really is. And I strongly encourage you, the next one that comes up in Australia to attend. I'm sure there'll be some very interesting people speaking once lockdowns go away. But Trump delivered this speech, and it was incredibly enlightening because we saw a situation where, as I said, there's been this Republican civil war going on. And Trump has been purposely quiet, laying it low until the impeachment proceedings sort of blew over. And it's been incredibly entertaining because what have we seen? We've seen the Senate in disarray under Mitch McConnell, the head Republican, and a lot of confusion over who might run in 2024. Now, there was beyond a doubt that Trump is going to be the lead candidate if he chooses to run in 2024, and he is in no way ruling that out. I mean, he's been giving speeches at CPAC since like 2013, so this might just be another speech, but nonetheless, if Trump says he's going to run again, he will get the support of the Republican Party, including the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who has a rough history with Trump. But despite that, the people at CPAC in America, 55% of them firstly preferred Trump to be the leader. And then that was followed far back at 21% was the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, who's a phenomenal guy. He's doing some really good stuff against internet censorship, passing great laws. And he's been great on lockdowns, keeping the country open, or the state open. Now, so there's no doubt about that. Trump also dispelled a lot of myths about a lot of fake news, as he called it. Stuff like he's not starting a new party. He has the Republican Party. Why would he need to start a new party? And it's true. He has it by the jugular right now. He really does. I mean, over 80% of the Republican Party actually like him. He still has a phenomenally high approval rating among Republicans. I think like 91 to 95%. It's up there. In terms of in terms of the actual support that the candidates he endorsed have, because he endorsed, and he said this in his speech, he endorsed 122 candidates in the US election. Only 120 of them, only 2 of them didn't get up. All 120, almost all of them, got in. There were only 2 candidates where he didn't endorse them and they didn't get up. One of them was actually Madison Cawthorn, who's the very young congressman. I think he's 25 or something. And he's the congressman in a wheelchair. And he's one of the guys that Trump didn't endorse, and he beat the odds, which is awesome. But this endorsement has serious power. He is a kingmaker. Whether he runs or not, whoever wants to be the Republican nominee must be endorsed by Trump. That is just the reality of what we're seeing right now. It's insane. It's insane that that they tried to Nigelize him after the events of the storming of the Capitol, because there was no evidence that he incited the Capitol riots, as we saw, which I can't speak on. It's one of the topics I can't speak about on YouTube. But despite all that, he is back. And he gave this very long speech, and a lot of it was about the irregularities in the election. And I can't even use the words to talk about it. But for some reason, he could, and it was amazing to watch him do it. He wasn't presenting evidence. He was just making sweeping statements. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. I completely agree with him on all of this. But you need to understand from my perspective, I mean, I've lost my main YouTube channel, 10,000 subscribers. I've been banned and censored on Facebook for long periods of time, and I've still got censorship over some of those accounts that I run there. Even Riccardo's old page has been censored on Facebook because of some of the things we discussed on this show. So when I see Donald Trump come out speaking about these things, I'm like, how come they haven't censored him yet? I don't want them to, don't get me wrong, but I'm just scratching my head like they haven't taken down the Fox News live stream. Whereas if it was Steven Crowder saying the same things and he didn't have substantial evidence like he usually does, then there would be like, okay, what are you doing? You're making sweeping statements. And so it's been a bit frustrating trying to understand what YouTube is doing, basically, because they're just being inconsistent. So Trump talked about a number of other things as well. He lambasted the people that tried to impeach him, especially the Republicans. He went after Joe Biden. He basically opened the speech by saying, do you miss me yet? He outlaid a ton of things that he told the people about that Joe Biden was going to go against. For example, fracking. For example, we saw how quickly that turned around. And the vision for the country that Trump wants to see as well. And he outlaid that. I think they're going to be fine. I think the Republican Party are going to be fine because they are coalescing behind him again. No one's going to run. A ton of people are going to try and run against Trump's endorsement, but it's not going to go anywhere. I can't see it going anywhere. And I honestly think that this was a great speech. This was a seriously good speech, and the people were very fired up despite it not being a full hall because of COVID. I think people were very, very fired up in there, and it was very encouraging to see. I can't wait to see what the next few years has in store for this man. He's got a lot of people keep saying, it's time for someone else to run. He needs to hand the baton on. I don't think so, guys. He's not done yet. He's not. And all these legislatures around all of these states, the state legislatures, they need to work on the election irregularities, making sure you're checking IDs, doing all of your due diligence, reading the Navarro report, which has 3 volumes. It's not super long. I mean, the 3rd volume is only 15 pages, just to give you an idea, but it is dense with things you need to, with numbers that you need to be aware of, irregularities you need to be aware of. For example, I can tell you that in Georgia, there were 10,000 votes that the margin of error in that state, that the margin of victory in that state that Joe Biden supposedly achieved was 11,000 votes, but the actual amount of people, for example, that voted that were dead was like 10,000. And then there's also literally hundreds of thousands of other votes, which I haven't even talked about. There's 590,000 votes to be exact. On top of that, where there's question marks, illegal people voting, people who aren't citizens. There's a ton of other things. Mail-in ballots going out. this is the sort of stuff that needs to be covered. And I get worried when people like Jordan Peterson and Douglas Murray discuss between the two of them, and I get the feeling that they haven't read any volume of the Navarro report, and they just sort of not rewrite history, but they're just ignorant of all the facts. And it kills me because I like these guys. These guys are, they've made a profound impact on me, and they're both incredibly articulate individuals. I'd only hope at some point in my life I'm as articulate as those two and well thought out and intellectual. But on this issue, I just don't, they haven't, it's almost like they haven't seen anything that Tim Pool's put out. They haven't seen anything that the Navarro report has put out. They've just sort of listened. They must be in a bubble. I really feel that. Sometimes I question, am I in a bubble? But I look at the hard facts on this, and it's like, no, F you. I'm right on this. I know I'm right on this. And if anyone's going to achieve victory on the Republican Party in 2024, and I hope Trump does, then these things need to be fixed now. Now, one of the things that were discussed this week, which was quite unsettling, was the fact that Stephen Crowder actually did a ton of... he did an episode where he went to a ton of different locations, and they looked at how many votes were done from addresses that don't exist. People don't actually live there. And not only was it unsettling initially, the follow-up was even more unsettling, because what ended up happening was he did this report, and then people started to correct him and fact-check him, saying that, no, this person actually doesn't live at this address, they live here. With one of the people, and look this up, it just came out today, 2nd of March, with one of the people that he checked, they're like a former Hillary Clinton staff member or aide or something, working in one of these states. And she's been missing since 2018 after being found guilty of manipulating voter fraud, votes and all of that. He put this episode out showing her one of her addresses, and it ended up being like, it's like an empty lot or something. You got to see it. And he gets fact-checked, and they say that's not actually her real address. And so they go through it, because Stephen Crowder he doesn't usually make mistakes. He's very thorough. And so they go back through it, and they literally changed. He released this on like a Tuesday. They literally changed the address of this woman that night, Tuesday night. And just so you know, in that particular state or county, they don't change voter information on Tuesday nights. They only do it on Mondays. And so it was very, 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 very creepy, very creepy. In fact, he made a point of saying, and he was very unsettled. You've got to watch this episode. It came out today, 2nd of March. He made a point of saying, I am not suicidal. I don't want to be added to the Clinton body count. I am sane, and I would never hurt me or myself or my family with these guns that I own. And so it was very unsettling, because the fact that someone changed this right after they know what's happening. And so they visited the new address that was put out, the updated one, and it's also fake. There's also no one lives there. This is insane. This is insane, and it needs to be checked. I hope that I don't get taken down for this clip, but this is crazy. And when people like Jordan Peterson and Douglas Murray talk about these issues, and they're unaware of this, they're unaware of these things, I get very worried about their diet of who they're listening to. And I'm not telling them to go on 4chan or Gab or anything. I'm barely on those places. I just question who they're surrounded by and who they're listening to. They should be listening to people that are solid, that have a proven record of being right on this stuff. Stephen Crowder's one, Tim Pool's another, just to name a couple, and Tim Pool's centre-left. I think that this is something that needs to be done. But talking about Donald Trump's speech, it can't be understated how important it was. It was incredibly important. And the fact that the media lost their minds over it, lighting their hair on fire and running around, it just shows you that it hit the mark. And he is not ruling out 2024 at all. In fact, he said, I might have to I don't know, I might have to win it a third time just to make a point. And it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I can't wait to see what's in store for America. I can't wait to see what's in store for the Republican Party. And yeah, and it was an excellent speech, guys. I strongly recommend it. I was very tempted to watch it with you guys live, and maybe I'll do that another time. It was an hour and a half yesterday, and I did have stuff on that day, but I strongly recommend you listen to it. It's well worth the listen. He actually outlays a lot of interesting information. For example, did you know that out of the 19 bellwether districts, 18 of them voted for Trump, not Biden, which baffled and I've mentioned that stat before, it baffled the statisticians. What does that mean? There are counties in America where there's the little local areas, like think of it like a local council in Australia. It's like a voting block area, an electorate, and those areas actually have, there's about 19 of them which always predict over the last few decades who's going to win the presidential election. 18 out of the 19 of those were wrong. That never happens. It never happens. But anyway, I won't talk about this anymore at the risk of being censored. But there'll be a second hour where we can discuss some of this stuff a bit more in depth, and maybe we'll read through the Navarro report a bit more in detail so that people can actually look at it. So that's where we're at with the Donald. Let's look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden promised, as president, I will use military power responsibly and as a last resort. We will not go back to forever wars in the Middle East. Hashtag Dem debate. This is when the Democrat debates were going on amongst all of their players. Yet the New York Times just reported this week, US airstrikes in Syria target Iran-backed militias that rocked American troops in Iraq. There's just one problem with this title. If you read down in the article, it says, little is known about the group, including whether it is backed by Iran. I mean, the title says, US airstrike in Syria target Iran-backed militias. What's wrong with you guys? Did you forget the content of your article? What's going on? This is ridiculous. This is the sort of stuff that led to the invasion of Iraq. It's literally what happened. They lied about weapons of mass destruction, weapons they never found. All the mainstream media basically did it. There were very few people that said not to go into Iraq, including Trump. He said not to. And now they're in a situation where they're getting caught red-handed. I mean, the veil has been split in two, guys. We can see exactly what's behind the curtain. And it's disgusting. We see exactly the way the governments usher in new wars or usher in old wars or keep the war machine churning. And it's incredibly disgusting. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a Syrian. I'm saying that because I'm a human being, and I don't like seeing all of these dozens of countries that end up getting invaded and toppled, and their leaders, some of which democratically elected, being toppled. It's revolting. So it's just the Republicans, under George Bush, they invaded Iraq. That's what it looked like. Now it's just the Democrats with, Black Lives Matter on the plane and the LGBTQ plus flag on the tail of the plane. Diversity dropping bombs. So now they're like Black Lives Matter, and then they drop bombs on brown people. I mean, that's where we're at as a society. It's all about branding, guys. It's all about branding. This is a video I wanted to show you guys. I've often talked about policy in the Middle East. I've talked about the Qatar-Turkey pipeline. I've talked about what the greater plan for the Middle East is. Well, one of the people that have been very important in helping me conceptualize this is the words of General Wesley Clark. In March 2017, he gave this speech, and it is very, 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 very troubling. Take a look.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, I guess they don't know what else to do. So I said, well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda? He said, no. He says, there's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq. He said, I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments. And he said, I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail. So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
Oh boy. This is ridiculous.
The truth is about the Middle East is, had there been no oil there, it would be like Africa. Nobody is threatening to intervene in Africa. The problem is the opposite. We keep asking for people to intervene and stop it. And there's no question that the presence of petroleum throughout the region has sparked great power involvement. Whether that was the specific motivation for the coup or not, I can't tell you, but there's always been this attitude that somehow we could intervene and use force in the region.
It's revolting. This is not new. Now, that conversation that he's referring to in the conversations, that was filmed in 2007. That conversation refers to a conversation in the 90s, and he clarifies here. So this speech sort of rocked a lot of people, scared them, because what ended up happening was obviously we had these wars that were going on. Now, this next video is from a guy called Luke Rudkowski. He does a lot of stuff with Tim Pool. He's been on this for a very long time. He's a solid guy. He's not afraid to confront the elite. He's confronted people like Henry Kissinger at events, and there's some footage of that. Here's some footage of him actually meeting the General Wesley Clark in September 2013.
General Wesley Clark, Luke Rudkowski, WRC. There's one question, if I could just ask you if that's okay. Would that be all right? Sure. There's a speech going around right now on the internet where you talked about the upcoming wars in Syria and Libya and Iraq and Afghanistan, saying that people were telling you this was going to happen.
Came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
It's happening now. Is there a follow-up? Is there any information you know or any thoughts on the speech you gave?
No, those were discussions that were being held in the Pentagon a decade ago, reflecting discussions from 1991. And it's a tragedy how it's unfolded.
Seeing it come true, it's unfolding. What does that say to the larger extent of everything?
It says that the United States needs to be a strong force for peace and justice, global cooperation in the world.
Do you have anything else you want to say about that talk or any information you came across? And how do you feel Obama's handling Syria right now? It's just mind-blowing that he only said that he hopes that the U.S. is a force for peace and that we need to be a force for peace when we're not. So there's obviously a lot of other things that Wesley Clark knows but is not saying. What are those particular things? We don't know, but there's a lot more to the story than we know, and that's why we're here trying to find out. Ask questions, demand answers. Look up that speech by Wesley Clark. It's a very powerful one. He told us exactly what we're going to get into, all the wars, all the foreign aggressions, and we're in them now. It is happening. This is all a plan. It's nuts.
That's crazy. That's insane. That I was baffled when I saw that. Honestly, guys, that just blew my mind when I first saw that. Luke Rudkowski, more credit to you guys. Honestly, go subscribe to his account. I'm not trying to leech any views off him or anything. Those videos have been around for a while. I hope that you guys follow his work. He is phenomenal. I hope to have his understanding and the amount of he's just so sharp. The guy's so sharp. Birds of a feather flock together. Him and Tim Pool are very powerful individuals. But how crazy is that from General Wesley Clark? He could barely, look at his face. He could barely look at the camera when he walked away. He was just, look, and he turns around. It's like, he knows what's going on. He knows exactly what's going on. And he says, I hope that the US acts like in the interests of global peace. And he seems like a solid player, but it's just sad because it's like he saw this coming, and there's probably more he knows, but he just can't say it, possibly out of fear. And it's very frustrating because it's like, what else is down the pipeline? I mean, this was only a peep into the future. He probably got in a lot of trouble for that clip. Who knows? It's guys, it's very frustrating because it alludes to what a lot of the conspiracy theorists have been saying for the last few decades, which is all of this has been planned, legislation has been set down, we're following a certain set of things, a certain sequence of events that lead us to now, and that is what's most scariest of all, because it's like there's nothing you can do about it. That's ultimately what it says, right? Well done, Luke. I don't know how he's still alive. I don't. Either of them. But this is sort of what's going. Keep this in the back of your mind whenever you see stuff going down in the Middle East. It'll help orientate you. I wanted to briefly mention our friends over at Spectator Australia. They've launched a new podcast. It's called what's it called? I think it's called Countercultural. They just released their first episode. It's hosted by Gideon Rosner, who puts out some solid stuff for the IPA, and they've got a new channel. So go subscribe to it. Get them over 1,000 subscribers this week. The Spectator Australia TV. They're currently at about 360 subscribers. Check it out. It's very well made. It's excellent. More importantly, share it with all your followers. Get them onto it. They put some quality stuff up. Rowan Dean, which most of you like, is backing this, and he does appear on this as well in video. It's phenomenal. It's a vodcast. They call it a podcast, but it's a vodcast, and there's a video component, and it's really good. It's really well made. Please go support them and follow them on all their social media. It's quite excellent. In other news, in America, New York's terrible governor, Andrew Cuomo, is terrible. I've said this many, many times. He's been going through a slew of problems recently, a slew of them. His medical officials of the state basically admitted that they were withholding evidence, I would say, that pointed towards more deaths being attributed to the terrible decisions that Andrew Cuomo made. For example, 16,000, as high as 16,000, possibly, maybe even more, 16,000 elderly residents have died because of the decisions that Andrew Cuomo made in handling coronavirus. What he did was he basically sent sick people into nursing homes, so they ended up infecting all these other sick people and killing them. And older people who are the most vulnerable in society, over 50, 60 years old is very vulnerable to this thing, especially if they've got pre-existing conditions. And that's exactly what happened. Not only that, there's been a slew of allegations, sexual harassment in nature, against Governor Cuomo in New York. And he's put out a statement recently saying, I now understand that my interactions may have been insensitive or too personal, and that some of my comments, given my position, made others feel in ways I never intended. So he sort of admits to what he was sort of did, even if the intentions weren't there. And it's kind of the walls are closing in on this guy. I'll put it that way. The walls are closing in on him. The Democrat establishment, including Nancy Pelosi, also came out and said she believes the victim, and a ton of other people. I think I saw some Hollywood stars and some other Bridget Gillibrand. Yeah, Bridget Gillibrand. She ran for the Democrat nomineeship for president, she also slammed him. She's very progressive. This isn't great for him. It's the walls are closing in on him, and he's a terrible governor, honestly, both on the way he's handled stuff, but also on a personal level. He's quite mafioso, and this is what happens. This is what happens. Live an honourable life. This is not what he's been doing. And I like talking about. Why am I talking about a governor in a city I've never been to, that's thousands of miles away? Because I see a lot of similarities, and I'm not saying sexually. I'm saying in terms of the misdecisions in managing COVID, a lot of similarities with our very own Premier in Victoria, Dan Andrews. I think his mismanagement of COVID has been terrible. Again, I'm not saying anything about sexual harassment or accusing. We haven't seen anything like that from down there yet. However, we have been seeing a ton of things in our parliament recently, which is disgusting. Whether it's the Labor front bench, whether it's the Liberal Party, it's been disgusting seeing what's happened, and there've been a slew of things happening. In these cases, I usually like to see the police handle this. I don't take allegations very seriously, but in this case, I take every allegation very seriously, but the police need to handle it. There's still a law in our country and in America, and that needs to be followed through. And in Governor Cuomo's case, the only reason I'm sort of condemning him now is because he sort of admits it in a much longer statement, this is just a segment of. In other news, Scott Morrison released a report into aged care, which has been much needed. 148 recommendations have come out of this Royal Commission. And it was very interesting to listen to the press briefing of him announcing that. They've released 8 volumes of it, and there's a lot there. The 148 recommendations aren't something you can just skim through on it. It's not a 1-pager or a 2-pager. It's like almost like an 80-page document, I think. And I was having a look through it, and it's very thorough. They couldn't put a number on how much money it's going to cost to actually fix these problems. But what it did reveal is that this is a report that Scott Morrison wanted to be done. That's what he says. And he wanted it to be done so we could get some answers on why they're being mistreated. And I think there was something like 18% of residents that answered there were 10,000 submissions for this Royal Commission from the public. And I think 18% of the submissions or something, or people in these nursing homes, they said that they had been assaulted or something while in the nursing homes, or unwantedly touched or something along that line. That came up in the press conference. Really disgusting stuff, and it's not what the people who literally helped build the nation deserve. I mean, they deserve the utmost respect. Taxpayers. This is not how I'd want to be, taken care of in the future. We need to do better. And I hope that Scott Morrison will actually endeavour on that path. Some would say no, he wants to kill us. I want to see this country flourish. And if this 148 recommendations is something that we can hold the government's feet to the fire, because it's a report they asked for, then I'm going to do that. I want to see some good stuff come out of this, because I don't plan on putting my mum in a nursing home, and by no means, because I've seen how bad it is. I mean, it's terrible. It's a terrible decision if you do it in the state that it's in right now. And I wish the government all the best, Labor or Liberal, in fixing this, because this is not a partisan issue. This is something that needs to be solved. So, not last weekend, but the weekend before, we had the Millions March, and it was against, obviously, everything that's been happening COVID-related. And it was hilarious to watch, because I went down to Sydney. It was really great to do these events, and the media reported as being no one was there. It was hundreds of people that turned up, and that's just not what I saw. I saw, at least in Sydney, 2,000 to 3,000 people. And it was entertaining watching the media coverage of this, because in all the states around Australia, they basically said a few hundred people. Very entertaining, very, very, very entertaining to watch the fake news go off. But it was a great march in Sydney. We did a march around the city, and the police were great. They were really good. Not one arrest that day. They were very well organised. The organisers of the march did very well. full credit to, I think Michael Sims was the main organizer. I think there were others, but I know Michael Sims, and they had speakers, and he organised it well with the police, and it was well managed. And the police, when they needed, they cornered off streets when we walked past, and we did a trip around couple blocks, and then we came to Hyde Park, and we had a very peaceful protest, and the police took care of us, and it was good. It was really good. We said what we needed to say, and it was great. And I'm not going to lie, it would have been great to see even more people out there. After all, they did call it the Millions March, but it was good to be out there meeting people. I love these events so much. I love meeting so many different people. I don't agree with most of the people there about vaccines. I just don't. A ton of them were from IMOP there, and I have the utmost respect for the IMOP people. Especially Michael O'Neill for what they're doing. It's not easy to talk about this issue. But in terms of the topic of vaccines, I've had all my vaccines as a kid. I didn't take the flu shot. I haven't had any issues. I've got no underlying conditions. In terms of the reason I was there on the weekend, it wasn't because I agreed with them on a lot of that stuff, because a lot of them oppose all vaccines. I believe in freedom. I don't want to see people coerced. I believe in individual responsibility and assessing the risks on your own. And what we're seeing from the government is not that. It is not that. And it was really good to see so many people around Australia getting out there, thousands of people. Now, some of the things we can expect to see, and this is a post from Lauren Easton out of Israel. She said that I was sent a photo from Israel, on the left from friends who cannot believe what they saw on beaches in Tel Aviv today. If you don't believe that Israel is creating a two-class society, you better check this out. This is reminiscent of the apartheid regime in South Africa. So they've got these, for those of you who can't see, they've got these seats on the beach, and on them is printed reserved for vaccinated people only. And it's kind of troubling, guys. It's kind of troubling. What does it say? City of Durban, under Section 35 of the Durban Beaches bylaws, this bathing area is reserved for the sole use of the members of the white race group. That's from South Africa, the image on the right. I don't want to see this sort of stuff with the vaccinated stuff. Now, I don't know about the greater politics happening in Israel. Lauren, you probably know better than myself. But I don't like seeing things being prohibited from other people. I don't like seeing it, especially in a public place like this. And we're seeing sort of stuff happening very soon. I mean, Qantas has announced and introduced a digital app to check customer vaccination records starting next week. What the hell is that? What are we doing? This is ridiculous. You're not going to let me on a flight if I haven't had my vaccine? Are you serious? You can stick the app where the sun don't shine, as Riccardo might say. Also, shops and cafes are supposedly allowed to make COVID vaccinations a condition of entry. Aren't there laws against this? This is ridiculous. You're not going to serve me. I hate to compare it to what happened in America, where there was segregation and black people couldn't go into certain cafes or into bars or whatever, or even Aboriginals in Australia couldn't go into bars. But it's similar. That's all I'm saying. It's similar. You've got a situation where a certain segment of society, and it's not tiny. News.com did a survey with over 100,000 people answering, and 70% of them said they're not getting this vaccine. It's not a tiny percentage. It's not. There are so many people that have questions about this thing, and you've got to stop. What's that line from Star Wars? It's I think it's Princess Leia says this. The harder you tighten your grip, the more star systems that will slip through your fingers. If you keep strangling the people with this stuff and you don't explain it, and you're not uber transparent with them, they're gonna pull back. You're doing some irreparable damage, which could easily be undone. Easily. It's very frustrating to watch. Temperamentally, I am someone that I enjoy watching conflict resolution. I don't like watching conflict. And for example, when the IMOP discussions came up in my discussions with Riccardo, I did not find them comfortable at all. I like seeing people work together. That's what really gets me going. I love watching that because we've got bigger fish to fry. And when I see this kind of stuff, this kind of crap, where vaccinations become a condition of entry into places, the division of people, I don't like that. The government are meant to be of, by, and for the people. And people don't feel like that anymore. They don't. In fact, I don't want to be showing my cards here yet, but I'm strongly considering doing sort of a radio segment for an hour where I literally have people call up on the roadcaster. The roadcaster's got the provisions to do this, the capabilities, literally just getting them to call up, and I ask them for two very simple questions. Do you feel like you're being heard? No, most likely. And I don't care who that is. That could be a greenie. That could be someone on the far right. It could be anyone. Do you feel like you're being heard? And what topics do you feel like you're not being heard on? If politicians answered those two simple questions, we would not be in the state that we're in right now. If they asked these questions of the community, we would not be in this state right now. Why aren't they doing it? Why not? I am a very young bloke. I have a ton of things to learn. But this is something where I'm scratching my head and I do not understand it. Why are our government so inept at connecting with the people? And why is it a global phenomenon? Why is it that at 10 Downing Street in London, at Washington, D.C. in America, and Canberra, Australia, the capital cities, that these seats of power have people, these elitists, people who view themselves above the general population, where they feel that they need to educate us on they call us COVIDiots, they call us deplorables. Why is it they feel that they can, one, talk to us like this, and two, they know what we're thinking and they know what's best for us? You know, Hitler also knew what was best for us. Hitler also knew what was best for his populace. He went after the gypsies, the retarded kids. He went after the Jews. He went after everyone. You know, Turkey, they slaughtered millions of people, Armenians, because they knew what was best for their country. That's not what we need right now. We need politicians that will actually talk to the people. I'm trying so hard to understand what they are doing, what they are. And a lot of people call me naive. I keep your little conspiracy theories in the back of my mind, and sometimes they're right, and we catch them out. But these are people too. Not all politicians are bad. I mean, what did we see this week? We saw Craig Kelly resign. Is he also in the cabal as well? He's going to run as an independent. These are people too. They have consciences as well. And the moment you condemn them, their minds close. They might be on the fence. If they've gone too far, condemn them. Of course, you should call them out. But don't you think that a ton of them could actually be on our side? But the moment you say, oh, you're a Freemason, they just close their mind, because it has no validity. I've been called a Freemason. In fact, they'll probably call me a Freemason now for wearing this ring. They don't know it's from my grandfather. It's been passed down to him. They don't know my father passed it down to me before he passed, but they'll call me a Freemason anyway. And this is the problem, guys. We've got to be better thinkers. We've got to be better at articulating our arguments. And I don't blame you. There are a ton of, and I'm not going after you boomers. There are a ton of boomers that watch this show, and I love you guys so much. You guys support the show, you keep it going. But and I'm not blaming you for this. There is something wrong with your generation. I don't know if it was the education system. I don't know if it was your parents. I'm no psychoanalyst, but I keep running into this problem. It's a problem where we're discussing an issue and you sort of throw this out of left field topic out of nowhere with no basis in facts, and you shout it. And it's impossible to have a discussion at that point. You just sort of shout and you want to get your point across. That's not how you debate. Now, I'm not saying that you're stupid. I'm not saying that at all, because you're actually got winning arguments if you articulated them properly. I'm saying you're not articulating them properly. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that you don't know how to convince people with discussions. And that's something that at least with the kids today, I lay at the feet of the education system and possibly parenting. But it's not something you can learn. It's too late to learn. You can do this. I believe in you. And why am I telling you this? I'm not telling you this to slam you down. I'm telling you this to build you up. The purpose of this show is partly to educate people. And I want to see the watchers of this show to be incredibly powerful people. People where others listen to their opinions because they're well thought out, they're articulate, and they're able to actually put an argument together that is convincing to other people. Because what's been happening recently doesn't work. You know, walking up and down the street is great, but the moment you sort of see people, I don't know, hit a car, scream, "You're a Freemason" to a police officer, it doesn't look good. Not all police officers are Freemasons. Can we be a little bit more educated about this? And I'm not sitting on my high horse here. I'm trying to help you guys be better debaters, better at having a discussion, better at changing minds. Watch Steven Crowder. He does this very well. He's got a whole segment called Change My Mind, which went viral. It got memed because it's such a great idea. Changing minds, sitting down with people. But we will continue to see things deteriorate. I don't believe the government's going to learn the lessons of being more transparent. And we're going to see crazier and crazier things as society deteriorates, thanks to the media as well, pulling the fabric apart. This is a tweet from Sydney Watson. She said, "Just went into a restaurant. The employee who greeted us had a badge stuck to their mask with their he, him pronouns. Be warned, this pronouns crap is making its way into the real world." I hate the masks. They're so frustrating. And now I've got another reason to hate them. Putting their pronouns on them. Oh, if we want this to become a normal part of life, then this is what we can hope to see. We're also seeing the media sort of turn around at the anti-vaxxer movement, as we saw with those marches, and they warn that there are concerns anti-vaxxers will try to disrupt the jab rollout. Specialist directives reportedly are keeping tabs on anti-vaxxers amid concerned storage facilities may be targeted. Third jab has been approved. What do you mean by targeted? Are you saying that they're going to blow it up? Surely not. I'm going to assume you're not saying that because that would be idiotic. I think what you're saying is targeted for a protest as a location. I mean, as long as they're not interfering with other individuals' rights to get the jab and choice to get the jab, I think it's perfectly reasonable to actually do that and to actually go there and voice their concerns, especially for people that are just about to go in. They should have the most information before they go in from both sides, not just one. So the fact that they're sort of doing this is almost a hit job. And we sort of alluded to this in the past, where there's these articles that come out and they say that the COVID world is actually being undermined and it's empowering white supremacists and radical right wingers. That's not what I see, man. That's not what I see. The radical right wingers will continue to get empowered as the radicalism increases on the left and as the media continues to squeeze people, as I said before. Another thing, left-wing extremists are using COVID to inflame tensions. Victoria Police warns left-wing extremists are mimicking overseas movements like Antifa to justify violence. I've been warning about this for over a year, guys. I've been warning that this is going to get worse. It wasn't this bad before. It wasn't this bad. But in times of crisis, a lot of people see crisis as a ladder. And Antifa, these people in society, they need help. They seriously need help. A lot of them don't have a lot going for them. Some of them come from rich families, but a lot of them, they don't have a lot going for them. They need something to do. They don't know how to make it. And it sucks. I honestly, as a Christian, as a human being, as an Australian, I feel sorry for these people. I want to see them flourish. I want to see them very powerful and living up to their full potential. But that is not what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a government that doesn't deal with these problems. And as things further deteriorate, we will see the rise of Antifa in Australia. In fact, it's not a new thing. They've been around for the longest time. Didn't the Antifa members actually try and beat up Andrew Bolt from Sky News. There's footage of that. Go check it out while he was filming something. Another thing, we saw them, I think 200 of them, protesting out of CPAC 2019. We saw one of them come in 2020. That was funny. I actually know that Antifa guy, and I give him my thumbs up. We have an interesting rivalry. But this is the thing with the Antifa people and with the radical right wingers, that they will continue to rise and the middle will continue to shrink if they keep this up. It's the further polarization of Australia. I don't like it because I see it. I've seen it in the UK. I've seen it in America, and the media has been fueling this stuff. You know, I bag the media out for being not as powerful as they once were. They are still very powerful at shaping the narrative, and I don't like it because they are destroying our countries. And the real question is why? And then the next question after that is who's funding them? And I don't like the answers to those questions. We need to take our country back. We need to take it back. In fact, that's the name of a podcast from Professor Flint, who's one of the professors who actually nominated Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. He's an Australian professor. Check him out on The Good Source. He does a weekly podcast on that. It's excellent. What does it look like when a country's falling apart? Well, in Oregon, there are 5 counties that are going to vote on leaving the state, escaping to Greater Idaho. Greater Idaho isn't a state yet. It would be the 51st state if they were to form a state, and it was approved. This is very, very troubling. These 5 Oregon counties, this is what we might call a peaceful divorce, as Tim Pool might put it. If a country continues to deteriorate, if the states continue to deteriorate, you will see red counties like these ones in Oregon separate. In fact, there's even talk that, and for those of you that don't know America, that some California states might actually join this from the north of California, because California is to the south of this image. This is what we're going to see. We're going to see the breakdown and a peaceful divorce. If this keeps going on, I mean, WA keeps floating the idea. Maybe things will deteriorate sufficiently enough that they want to separate. I don't want to see that. I want to see a united Australia. I want to see a powerful Australia. But our country is being torn apart by some very dark forces. And and I'm very specific. I don't just leave it there. They include the media and their coverage. They are not covering things properly. They are not. We exposed that when they covered the Love Crepe Cafe. They aired a show where they didn't even get a comment from Nick at Love Crepe. And we had to expose it. Alternative media, a guy with no following, 23 years old, hasn't done a degree, had to expose it. And it reached hundreds of thousands of people. Now Nick's business is doing better than ever. And we've got an announcement for that next week. But this is what we're up against. And the people that support this show and pay for this show allow us to do that, to bat for small business. But we need more help from other alternative media people as well. And your support, it means everything to what I do. It really does. And it helps us stop this from happening. Who else is tearing our country apart? Well, our politicians. And this is something the left sort of gets right. People like Drew Pavlo sort of get this right. And don't forget, I was from the left. Corporate interests are tearing this country apart. These lobbyists get into the pockets of many of these politicians in our parliament. They set them up after they leave so that they don't get sued in a nice, comfortable position, maybe on a bank's board, the CEO, or some nice, comfortable positions. They rack up a few of these board positions because it doesn't take much effort to do. And the next thing you know, you're set for life. That's where we're at. That is where we're at. And these politicians do not put Australians' interests first. And well, I mean, why has it taken so long? Answer me this. Why has it taken so long to improve the aged care facilities of our parents? This isn't a new problem. This has been around for decades. They've done a terrible job of it. It's only Scott Morrison that's actually come around and said, I want to address this properly. I need some answers. Let's do a royal commission. And, full credit to him. But you can be damn well sure that I'm going to be making sure you stick to the good recommendations that were made, all 148 of them. We need to stop this country from falling apart, guys. We are on a terrible path. Here's another sign of the deterioration of what's happening in society. This is the American cash rate. How much cash has actually been printed in America? The measurement unit is billions of dollars. And as you can see, it sort of tracks along for the last 50, 60 years, from 1960 to 2020, and then it shoots up in 2020. In fact, before 2020, it was almost at $4,000 billion. That's the unit of measurement they've got. And then it goes up to 18,000. Now, I don't do maths, but that's 4.5 times the amount it was before 2020. That's insane. That's insane. That's like up 800%. That's insane, guys. Up 400%. That's crazy. I think that we're due for a collapse if things go wrong. Now, I don't do financial advice, guys, but I'd be very careful in investing in anything right now, whether it's the stock market, whether it's property, but don't take my financial advice. Remember, I'm 23. What do I know about this stuff? But when I see the money supply shooting up like that, it's exactly what we saw before world wars. It's exactly what we saw before a country collapses like Venezuela. Watch out. Watch out, people. It's funny, I didn't plan it this way. The graphics just sort of came out this way. It's funny, I didn't plan it. There was a recent survey that came out which basically went through the biggest issues that faced the voters in the Democrat Party, but also in the Republican Party. So they split it. In the Republican Party, it was interesting how they broke it down. Republicans were most concerned about 1, illegal immigration, 2, lack of support for police, 3, high taxes, 4, liberal bias. That was very, very interesting, and it's concerning to see that. I'm having a bit of a mind blank right now. I think that I honestly thought election fraud was a lot higher. These are sort of the main concerns that facing the Republican Party. Now, illegal immigration, there's a few reasons for that. A lot of people aren't having their jobs taken by illegal immigrants. And if you think I'm being xenophobic, it's the truth. In Texas, there's a great story, and you can look this up, about a chickens farm where they hired 3,000 illegal immigrants. ICE, which is their immigration department, federal department, they stormed the facility. They got rid of the 3,000 illegal immigrants working in this chicken processing factory. And 3,000 black people, Americans, got hired there. That's what we want to see. We want to see people from that country being hired. So a lot of people are concerned about this, especially when there's a shortage of jobs in America. And there's a ton of other concerns that were raised. But the point you should be taking from this is the first 5 things are all sort of, they're policy based. We go to the Democrat side, basically, and the top issue they have is Donald Trump supporters at 82%. 82% are extremely concerned. 10% are somewhat concerned. So that's 92% that are very concerned about Donald Trump supporters. That's not good. That is not good. That is a sign that the country is coming apart. The next one after that is white nationalism at 79%. Then after that, systematic racism. And then there's gun violence. Democrats do not view themselves as being proud of their country. And America is a great country. They've done some phenomenal things. And it's heartbreaking to see this because they need to be reminded of what makes their country truly, truly, truly great. But we're not seeing that right now, are we? This week we saw Facebook end the ban on Australian news. Josh Frydenberg announced. And look, it's good to see them back. But again, as I actually called this, I said that they're going to let it back because the government will always win. They always win. They've got the biggest hammer, and Facebook was never going to leave. Now, Australia's not their biggest contact, but the problem was Australia's got friends like India, and India's got over 1 billion people. And the fact that they thought that they could boss around Australia without thinking about the other allied countries is ridiculous. And as I said, there are no heroes in this situation with the Facebook news ban. I mean, friends like ours, like Monica Smith, got banned. I didn't like to see that, but we saw it. And we saw a lot of the mainstream media banned. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I like to see productive dialogue happening, and I don't like seeing two big, massive corporations fighting, like Google and Facebook, but also an even bigger government with a bigger hammer fighting on this stuff. I don't like seeing it at all. In other news, Craig Kelly resigned from the Liberal Party to move to the crossbench, the Sydney Morning Herald reported. Am I surprised? No. I warned you, Scott Morrison. I said, if you keep nigelating a very reasonable person like Craig Kelly, this is going to happen. Something bad's going to happen. And now he's resigned. Now you have a very slim majority of 76, and you lost a very reasonable MP. An MP who I think he won his last election with an 8-point majority. That's pretty good. Was that 58%? That's pretty good. And the fact that you want to replace him with someone else, I mean, do you really want to rock the boat, ScoMo, in New South Wales after what Gladys pulled? A lot of people very frustrated with the Liberal Party. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the Liberal Party will form government again in 2020 or 2021, whenever this election is, because it could be as soon as August this year or as late as April next year. I think it'll be this year, but it's up to Scott Morrison when he calls it. Australia will be a Liberal government, I believe, after the next federal election, and Craig Kelly, I think he's going to be around. If he runs as an independent, he's going to be around, and you're going to regret this, ScoMo. You really, really are. And here's a video of Craig Kelly actually briefly explaining this, and you'll notice, please notice, that they actually cut off Craig Kelly's mic, and they cut away from it. This is Sky News.
Hit me hard. I believe that for as long as the rest of this parliamentary term goes, if I'm best to represent the constituents of my area and to be faithful to the oath that I took when I swore in as a member of parliament, and to be able to speak frankly and fearlessly, I need to do that from the crossbench rather than from the government benches.
And is this because Scott Morrison told you off the other day, is it?
No, I have the greatest respect for Scott Morrison. I said in the party room today, I hope he goes on to be one of our longest serving and greatest Prime Ministers. I'll support the government, naturally, of course, on all matters of supply, confidence. There's nothing that I can see that's on the agenda papers that I'm going to be objecting to strenuously what the government is doing. The government should be able to continue as it was and continue to function. But I just feel that if I'm to speak out and to use my voice the best I can, this is the best decision for myself and for the people that I represent.
Is this because you felt like you were gagged on social media about ivermectin and these sorts of issues?
Well, I believe one of the greatest mistakes that has been made in this country and also the world was prohibiting doctors from prescribing ivermectin and also HCQ with zinc. I believe this was a terrible error. It's not about that or the vaccines, and I've been labelled an anti-vaxxer, which is just a slanderous smear. I support the vaccine program, but in concert, to use the words of our highest credentialed immunologists, these other treatments should be used in concert with the vaccine. And yet we still have here, I turn on the TV and I hear government bureaucrats saying there's no evidence. That is just
there it is.
You're just listening
there
to our political editor, Andrew Clennell, speaking.
Oh, yeah. Why can't we listen?
Kelly, who has just
Are we too stupid? Are we too stupid to understand what he's saying? Are you worried we're going to make the wrong decisions? Why are you cutting away? Why are you cutting away? What is wrong with you? I want to hear what he has to say. I want to hear what the man has to say. This is what frustrates me. It's when they talk to you like you're an idiot. We can't trust the public with this information because they might hurt themselves. It's like saying we don't want to give these scissors to this child because he might cut himself. I can't swear, otherwise I'll be demonetized. It's absolute BS. It's crap. What they're doing is being elitist, snobbish people that look down their nose at you because you're too stupid to come to your own conclusions about these medicines, about the vaccine, about a ton of these issues. Now, when it comes to this vacation, as I often call it, or injection into the arm, I don't want it. I have no plans to take it. I don't need it. I'm a young, healthy man, no underlying conditions, not a smoker, not a history of being obese, not a drunkard. I eat relatively well, and I'm young. There's no reason I should be taking this. I am going to be fine. I will be fine. But when the government looks down their nose and says, you're too stupid to process information, you might hurt yourself, we need to put you in a straitjacket. We need to put you into lockdown. You're going to kill grandma if you don't follow what we're saying. It's like, give me a bloody break. You don't know me. You don't know my family. And they're like, oh, we care about you. We care about your kids. Yeah, you do you? What are their names? What are their names? What are the names of my kids? That's what you should ask them. What's the name of my grandma? Do you know? Do you know the name of my grandma? The one that just passed away? The one where we could only have 300 people at the church service? What's her name? You don't give a crap. You don't know her. You don't care about the quality of life that the Australian people are receiving right now. You don't care that a UK study showed that 10 times more deaths are coming out of these lockdowns. You don't care about how many people are committing suicide. You don't care about how many people aren't being diagnosed for cancer because of your decisions. That's why we're here. We're here because you decided to take my job in property. Could I go back? Yeah, absolutely. Will you keep screwing up? Absolutely. Will you be held accountable? No. And that's my problem. That's my job. My job is to expose exactly what you're doing. My job is to replace the media. We could even live in a world where I could cooperate with the media and live in the same world with them and set a higher bar, just like Project Veritas does in America, a higher journalistic bar, which is a word that they don't use anymore here because they've forgotten what it means. We could live in a world where journalists actually do their job. We could live in a world where politicians actually put policies in place for the people. But that's not what we get now, is it? It's not. We get a situation where they put their own policies that affect their own corporate interests. Like in America, what do we see? We see people like Governor Andrew Cuomo rather. We see policies from Joe Biden that are basically puppeting the words of the teachers' unions because they don't want to send their teachers back to work. And who pays because of that? Kids. Kids don't get their education. It sets them back years, they will never get back. They will never get these years back. They might never learn these skills. Yet you are doing this, and there is no one being held accountable. No one. Not one person. And the media is silent. I take my hat off to people like me. I have to go overseas to get this information. Just like Craig Kelly. I have to listen to credible people on the left. Like Majid Nawaz, a Muslim. Are you going to call him? You can't call him racist. You can't call him a COVID racist or a COVID-idiot. He brings out this study about lockdown, suggesting maybe we shouldn't be doing this. And what do you say? Nothing. You say nothing. Why? I've been trying to answer that question for the longest time. Some people call me naive because they know exactly why. They think they know exactly why. And they say it's because it's a big plan and it's been planned from decades ago and there are no surprises here and they know what's going to happen next. And maybe they're right. Maybe they are. But if there's a sliver of a chance that you guys are just being idiotic and you don't know what you're doing, or you're relying on the health professionals too much, can you please, for the love of God, just be more transparent? When you're not transparent, the conspiracy theories run wild, and it's a disaster for everyone. It's a disaster. I don't care what anyone says. The storming of the Capitol in America was due to, a large portion of it was due to the media. A large portion of it was due to antagonists in the crowd, and a massive portion of it was due to the QAnon conspiracy theories that I've grown incredibly disgusted by because of how they've been wrong every freaking time. Every time. They thought that Mueller, the guy that was preparing the Russia report, was working for Trump. They've made a slew of predictions which never happened, whether it was Inauguration Day, gathering everyone together, and I've grown sick of it, guys. I've grown sick of it. I don't like seeing this. I do not like seeing people who I think are on the same side, on the side of protecting children from pedophiles, people that are protecting children from vacations, people that are potential voters for the same parties I'd vote for. I'm sick of seeing these good people being led astray by these QAnon people. I hate it. I hate watching it, because what it means is you are investing your time in something that is wasting your time. Do you remember that thing Riccardo and I both agreed on? We agreed that, for example, the slogan, trust the plan. The problem with it is it's lazy. It encourages you to do nothing. It encourages you to rely on a man like Trump, who needs help. He needs help. The guy needs help. He can't do it himself. So when you say trust the plan, it basically means, in Australian terms, have a beer, chuck a snag on the barbie, and watch the game. That is not what we want to be doing. That is not at all what we want to be doing. We're gonna lose that way. That is a losing strategy. Okay? And it's idiotic. It's idiotic to watch. It's idiotic to see good people play into it, because these are people that could be doing phenomenal things. They're not living up to their potential, as Jordan Peterson might say. We've got to fight. We've got to do it now. And the time is running out. Believe me, time is very much running out. And I'm not talking about the vaccine. I'm not talking about that. I believe most people will take it by the year's end in Australia. That's what I believe to be true. I don't think we've done enough to encourage personal responsibility and looking at that. That's my honest opinion. And I've already talked about my feelings towards the vaccine for myself. I don't want to take it. But most people will take this vaccine. I'm worried about the big things that are changing, the structural changes that are happening, whether it be democratically, like in America with the way they vote, their system being eroded. And I'm worried about the things that are going to last, that aren't going to allow us to fight, whether it be the ability to talk with free speech instead of being hit with lawfare, or whether it be big tech. And I'm worried about this, guys. I really am. It's going to be an absolute disaster. So we saw Craig Kelly come out with this announcement. He's a good guy. Craig Kelly, he's a good guy. And you might say, no, he's not. He's voting for the suppliers and this and that. Can you tell me another parliamentarian that's actually offering an alternative? Look, he's willing to resign from the Liberal Party. By Riccardo's own words 2 weeks ago, in the last episode we pretty much did together, he said Craig Kelly had an opportunity. He could have resigned, and he could have been a hero. That's heroic. That's what Riccardo said. He could have been heroic if he resigned from the Liberal Party. Well, he's done that. So in Riccardo's books, he's pretty much heroic now. He resigned, and he's running as an independent. There is no certainty for him or his family of their income in the future. There's no certainty. And that's it. Maybe he's probably got a parliamentary pension. But do you think he'd rather keep serving in the parliament? I think so. So the government are now at, I think, 76 out of 151 seats in the House. They don't have they're verging on not having a majority now. And they're going to be in a situation which doesn't look good for them. Now, a number of people like Bob Katter came out with a video expressing his feelings towards this. And it's quite enlightening listening to this, because I don't agree with Bob Katter on everything. We align on a ton of things, like opposing China. You know, he works with Drew Pavlo a lot on this, and I love that. I love watching that transparency again. That's why he's so popular and honest. But here he's making a point, and I encourage you to watch the full video. Here he's making the point, which is anti-establishment and anti-big party. The big parties need to be held accountable, just like I'm trying to do with the media.
The mainstream parties in Australia have to accept that they no longer issue the edicts, and we all jump when they crack the whip. Those days are over. The day that you could walk into this place, you big boys, and smash the dairy industry of Australia to pieces and close down manufacturing, they're over.
Has expired. I call the member for Sturt.
It's the truth. What do you guys think about that? I honestly think that Bob Katter has a role in this populist movement of the left. He's a very interesting individual. I'd love to have a chat with him. I reckon he'd be a fascinating guy to have a chat with. Maybe Drew Pavlik can help me set that up. But this is what we're seeing. We're seeing a rebellion against the establishment, and it's happening around the world. And the political establishment, they're getting worse. They are getting incredibly worse, whether it be how snotty they are, how snobbish they are, how elitist they act. And it's interesting to watch, because a day of reckoning's coming. You can only delay this for so long. You can only delay it for so long. They might have cheated the Donald once, but it's not. I don't think it's going to happen again. I reckon he's going to be back. And I keep telling people this. This is what I keep telling the QAnon people. Drop it, okay? He's not coming back. They keep saying, Joel, he's not coming back 2024. He's coming back in 2021. I'm like, okay, whatever. I get it. You still believe in what's going to happen. You believe that he's doing a psyop not a psyop. He's working on behalf of the military to bring down the government, and he's going to arrest the big cabal, and he's got Jeffrey Epstein still alive, and he's got all this, hidden information on some of the Supreme Court judges and all these people, and Bill Gates is actually dead. And it's like, I'm sorry guys if I don't have any patience for this. You had a good year in 2020, a ton of things came true, but that doesn't mean you've got unlimited patience from me. You're only as good as your track record. Some would say you're only as good as your last prediction, but your track record's shit. To put it frankly, ship. I said ship. YouTube, please don't demonetize the video. I wanted to move on to some questions. And you know what's funny? This week we might not even have an additional segment, because all the things that I've actually said, I've moderated them so that they shouldn't get censored. Shouldn't. That's the key word. But we'll see how we go. These are questions that I've received from my Subscribe Star followers, and I love them so much. These are the guys and girls that keep me going, many of which are boomers, and I love my boomers. I had boomer parents, and so I mean it when I say I was trying to help the boomers before. But please, if you can, subscribe to Subscribe Star. Give this video a like and a share. It helps with the algorithms. I'm going to do this on YouTube live, because these questions are actually fine. They shouldn't clash with the algorithms at all. They don't clash the 4 topics that we talk about. But please become a subscriber. I take these questions from Subscribe every week. The Subscribe Star people, I put a post out, they leave a comment, and these are directly from there, completely uncensored. So thank you guys. Thank you for the support. I love you guys very much, not just because you pay me, but because you guys are the ones that are willing to put your money where your mouth is, and that says a lot about you as people. And I'm not just telling you to help me out. If you're in Victoria, and I've often said, I've told you other people you can also back. First question's from Tegan. He says, "Hi Joel, just wondering what happened with Riccardo and you parting ways. You had a very successful show. I hope all is well with you both going forward." This is a post that we put out earlier. I think it was a Sunday last week, a week ago. So Riccardo, he put this post out which just said, just a quick note to say thanks to Joel for his work on the Ark with Riccardo Bossi. It was a great ride, and we wish him all the best for the future. Australia One will continue to address the issues of the day with a new free-to-view program covering local, state, national, international politics as we build up for the next federal election. Stay tuned, and we'll let you know when we're ready to go. Australia One, our best future. Good on him. That's great. I wish them the best of luck in doing the show. I love to see other people step up in alternative media and do this. And I wish them all the best with that. And I did in reply to that, because it was almost coordinated, because we both knew we were doing a post on Sunday. I then replied to that by saying, over 12 million views in 20 episodes, 70.2% of people first saw Riccardo on the Ark, 101,000 people follow Riccardo Bossy's Facebook page, making it the 29th biggest page, second to Gladys Berejiklian's herself. It was a pleasure working with Riccardo Bossy and the Australia One Party on the Ark, and I wish them the best of luck in the upcoming federal election, particularly in Queensland. The Ark will be continuing to shed a light on the issues facing Australia, and we will be entering the new season of the show with more content and new guests. And all of that is true. We are. I can't wait to the new chapter of the Ark. I think it was about, and I hope Riccardo will forgive me saying this, but I think it was about a little over a month ago, Riccardo came in and we were having a discussion about what he's basically doing, because we both know there's probably going to be a federal election this year, maybe even in November, but it could technically be as early as August. That's the thing. And I basically was asking how the party's going and this and that, and I made it very clear that I won't be joining Riccardo in Queensland, because as you guys know, he ran in the Queensland election, and as he said on camera, I do believe the law is that you have to move up there, and you have to be up there if you run in that election. That's my understanding of it. But I said to him, it's great to hear, but I probably won't be moving up there. You know, I have a house to keep. I've got I have a ton of bills to pay here, and I can't leave my family at this time. So whenever this election is, so I said, look, I won't be joining you in Queensland, and I've been looking for a replacement for months. I mean, when I was doing the Queensland tour, I was meeting with people up there to find an Ark replacement for Riccardo and A1 up there. So it's none of this isn't a surprise, guys. This is really good to see, because I want to see other people step up as well in every state, pursuing truth like Monica Smith does in Victoria very well under Reignite Democracy. And this is really, really healthy stuff. This is what I want to see. I want to see a strong country where lots of individuals, as Riccardo's book says, helps them get their stuff together as an individual and become very powerful contributors to society. And that's what we need. Now, however, I need to focus on my state. I live in New South Wales. I am staying here. And as far as I'm aware, the only parties that I could kind of back right now is Australia One, if they have candidates. I don't know of any candidates yet in Australia One in New South Wales. I'm not saying there won't be. I'm saying I don't actually have an insight into the running of A1, despite the fact I had the show with Riccardo. I mean, I stayed right out of it. I was never a member. And I liked it that way. I like the separation between my parties and the media. I don't like what we see with the mainstream media and the big parties. You sometimes see collusion, and I hate that. But with Riccardo, I genuinely don't know of any candidates running for Australia One in New South Wales. I hope there is, because Australians need an alternative that's going to be way better than these major parties. So at this stage, I know there's definitely going to be candidates for One Nation, which is a party I can definitely say, yep, go for. And if A1 comes with some, then great. I'd love to meet the candidates too and maybe do a show with them. In terms of the other parties, the Christian Democrat Party is a disaster right now. They're still going through a lawsuit, that's crazy. What's happening there? They're in a complete debacle. And I've often talked about this. I don't like to go into depth because I hate rubbing salt into the wound, but it's a disaster over there. The Federation Party, I don't know of any candidates running in the Federation Party. I haven't met anyone in the Federation Party recently. So I mean, I don't have an inclination to vote for them yet. Maybe I'll do some more research. What are the other parties? I mean, we know about Liberal, Labor, Greens, and Nationals. Not interested. I put them all last. Greens absolute last. But yeah, that's it. I can't think of any parties. But this is the thing. I am very, very worried. I am incredibly worried. There are good people that we've talked about on the show, Riccardo and I have talked about on the show, that are in trouble in New South Wales. I mean, we've got Joel Fitzgibbons, a man of Labor, who helped to moderate the radical green agenda of the Labor Party. He's been completely sidelined, basically. Who knows if he's even going to make pre-selection to win. His electorate's in New South Wales, I think in the Hills area. You've got recently resigned Craig Kelly. He's in trouble. What's he going to do? I don't know. He's going to be an independent in his area. I think he can win as an independent. Maybe he'll need a bit of help. Who else have we got? We've got Jim Molan, he's someone that's tried to secure our strategic oil reserves. He's someone that's tried to help us have a cohesive plan to address our military strategy for Australia. These are all people. And he's in a tough spot, Jim Molan, as well. He got the most amount of votes below the line. He didn't manage to get a Senate seat in the last election because they put him in the unwinnable spot, I think number 4 or 5. And he's been sitting in Senator Sinodinos's seat, who was a senator who went to, he had to resign his position to Jim Molan because he went to America. Sinodinos, he went to America so he could fill Mike Pompeo's job of, representing Australia there, ambassador to America. And so we're in a situation where basically I'm very worried about New South Wales and where things are going, because the parties, as I said, not many candidates for A1, some candidates for One Nation, but not in every electorate. We've got some scattered people like Joel Fitzgibbons, like who else have we've got? We've got Craig Kelly and we've got Jim Molan, and we've also got people in the Liberal Party and Labor Party as well in the Senate that are also being pushed back. We've got Conchetta Fierravanti-Wells, who's the Liberal Party senator who might be put 3rd or 4th on the Senate candidacy seat, which is not good. It's an unwinnable position. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. She's a good senator. She's batted for a ton of policies, and especially on religious freedom, which is something I've talked with Dr. Con Kafataris a lot with on the show, on Thin Ice. And we've also got, in the Labor Party, we've got... what's her name, Joel? What's her name? Another senator. I can't remember her name right now. They're going to put her 3rd or 4th. This is a woman who didn't vote yes on the same-sex marriage thing. When the vote came around in 2017, she actually didn't vote. And in the Labor Party terms, you never vote no, you just don't vote. That's like your no vote. And that is not something I want to see. She's also someone who's been good on religious freedom. I don't like seeing that. I don't like seeing that at all. And the more that I see the mainstream parties getting rid of these really good people for moderating their parties to what the Australians want, the more I get frustrated, and I want to help empower them. And so my focus is more towards New South Wales, and I want to really empower them there. And I wish A1 the best of luck. A lot of people have been reading into this too much, I think. But as I said, this has been a few weeks in the making in terms of what's happening with Riccardo going to Queensland and his electorate being in Queensland. And I wish them all the best of luck. And I can't wait to see their new show and how that progresses. And if you're in other states, guys, honestly, if you have the means, if you have the ability, if you have the skills to start a show like I did on the Arc and I'll continue to run here, please just do it. Go and do it. Just start it up. Start talking. Start having conversations. You will make mistakes. That's okay. I've made mistakes. But you need to keep moving forward. That's how you're going to actually progress the nation and help save the nation. You can't keep saying what if. You've got to leave nothing in the tank. That's what we say in rugby. Leave nothing on the tank. Leave it all on the field. Just go for it. And that's what I want to see more of. So I hope that answers your question in a very long way, Tegan. I gave it a long answer because a lot of people have been very, they've been reading into it too much. And I'm like, guys, I'll explain on the next podcast, but he needs to focus on his party and his Queensland. I mean, A1's not even actually registered yet as a party yet. That still needs to be done. And so they've got a ton of work to do. I'll put it that way. Question from Philip. He says, "Hi Joel, I understand you not being able to answer every question from last week, but I'd still like to hear both yours and Riccardo's view on the maniac Bill Gates, the recent revelation on him becoming the largest landholder in the US, and his insane push for synthetic meat has really got me peed off. Is there any way we can stop this lunatic, and what can we do here in Australia to mitigate his influence here? Regards, Phil. He is a maniac, isn't he? Yeah, he's the biggest landowner. And fun fact, I might have said this on the show already. Fun fact, a lot of the rich people in America, as you saw with the cash rate skyrocketing in 2020, something's coming. And the rich people in America know something's coming. And I'm really worried about that, because what they've been doing is they've actually been buying up tons of land, tons of gold, tons of other forms of storing value like Bitcoin, which they believe works, and also jewelry and art, because art supposedly retains value. That's very interesting. It's very, very interesting, and it'll be very interesting to see how, I've said interesting too many times, it'll be very fascinating to see how things progress with that in America, with the debt crisis they're going to have. I mean, 400% increase, 450% increase in their cash rate is very troubling. I don't trust Bill Gates. I don't trust the guy. He's a little bit crazy, and he's called a lot of this stuff almost like he had a plan for it. The synthetic meat thing is weird. I think we'll be fine. I think we can stick to regular meat, Bill Gates. I think we'll be good. But yeah, Phil, my pleasure, mate. My pleasure to answer your question. I enjoy these questions. Question from David. Hi, Joel. I noticed in a post above that someone said you had parted ways with Riccardo. Is this the case? Yep. I've just answered that before for Tegan, so check that out. He also went on to say, what do you see in the future regarding to the USA under Biden militarily? He says, I don't see good things. I see a return to a chaotic Middle East with endless wars. I see a lot of saber rattling at North Korea again. I see Biden just caving to the CCP, and I doubt he would lift a finger should China invade Taiwan. I see the USA's C being fatally compromised by an empty state to the point he would let the tanks roll into DC if he was told so. I'd like to hear both of your thoughts on this, as this will affect Australia sooner or later. Cheers, guys. Yeah, look, as I said, I answered the thing before about Riccardo. It'd be great to hear his question on this, because he's really good on foreign policy and the military stuff. I agree, man. I agree, David. It's not good. It's not good at all. Biden's militarily, I don't think Biden has the stones to face off with China if they try to invade Taiwan, and I mean that. I mean like a literal invasion, a sea invasion, where they deploy troops and they occupy the nation. Taiwan has no love for China right now, and to see what's going on there and what could happen potentially is very scary. I don't. If Drew Pavlova went over there, I just want him to get the hell out of there, because it's not a good place. And Drew Pavlova's been good at raising issues on that. Foreign policy on North Korea is not great. They're going to test Biden to get what they want. They haven't had a single nuclear firing test, missile test, since I think Trump last met with Kim Jong-un. But yeah, look, I'm worried about the foreign policy guys. And you know, we talked about it this week. I talked about the bombing that happened in Syria on supposedly Iraqi forces, which ended up being crap. This is not good. This is not good at all. And you don't have to be a rocket surgeon to understand that it's not good. This is going to be a disaster for foreign policy, and it'll be just like Obama 2.0. So that's what we're looking at. The next question is from Bruce. Hi guys, I am in the Australian military, and we're seeing an increasing push from our so-called leaders to civilianize the military by the changing of how we do things. They want to call us coaches instead of instructors, and to have teams instead of sections and platoons. The lack of confidence in our leadership is at an all-time low, and so is our capability. I would like to hear you and Riccardo's thoughts on this. Obviously, we can't have Riccardo's thoughts on this for obvious reasons, but he has often made the point, the military, the core, the soul of the military is being eroded, and if if you destroy that which makes an Australian soldier, then we might not be able to reconstruct the Australian military. In fact, in one of the more infamous, one of the best videos I've seen of Riccardo, he basically talks about if he were to become Prime Minister, what he'd do is he'd call up the big Don, President Donald Trump, if he's in, and he'd basically say to him, I need you to send me a 4-star general over here to help revitalize the Australian military and train them up. And I thought that was great. And just to clean it up. And honestly, man, Bruce, it's disgusting what they've done to the Australian military. I don't like seeing it. I think it's ridiculous, and it needs to be changed. Question from Steve. Hi, Joel. Do you have any updates on the mandating of COVID vacations? A petition was sent out early February, and I'm wondering when or if the government will respond. I'm not sure about this, Steve. I'm really not sure. I've seen some petitions. I don't think it's going to get enough traction quickly enough to stop anything. If you get enough, if you do the petition big enough, it can warrant a debate. But I mean, what's going to happen? They're going to debate it, probably throw it out. Most Australians will get this vaccine, like my words, by the end of the year, and we're going to be. It could be as high as 90%, man. Who knows? And we could be in a situation where basically they, we could be in a situation where it just doesn't matter, the petition. And it's sad because I believe in individual freedom. I don't like coercing people. If you have the best ideas, you should be convincing people, but that's not what we see happen. So I wish I had better news, Steve, but this is not a show to give you hope so much as it is to ground you in reality, as I've demonstrated this week. Question from Nick. Could you tell us how you develop some of your skills in researching and finding real truth? Are there certain websites that can help find big dirt on people like Biden? I already follow and pay attention to Ben Shapiro, Dan Bongino, Trump Jr., Charlie Kirk, and of course you. Oh, thank you. How do I do my research to find dirt on people like Chris Bowen or ScoMo? That's a great question. Does Google suppress information? Is DuckDuckGo better to find real true info? Nick, that is one of the best questions I've received so far on the show. It is honestly, people don't know how to research. I said this before in my little rant against boomers. They need to do a better job at researching and understanding how to find information and fact check. Stop getting Facebook photos that are really grainy and just copying it because your friend had it and not fact checking the facts that they put in there. You actually need to look it up. I saw a really, really stupid post put out by someone that's a follower of mine and a friend, because I saw their post. They put this post out and it was literally it was Inauguration Day. And they said the whole thing was a setup. It didn't happen. It's a fake White House, they said. And they showed one photo, and the White House was the round part of the White House. And they showed another photo, which was actually a square part. And they were saying, see, this is the White House. This isn't. This is a different place. They designed it wrong. They screwed up. The mask has slipped. And I'm like, bro, this is one of the stupidest posts I've ever seen. And I showed him a screenshot. I posted a screenshot of the White House from a bird's eye view, and it shows, yes, the north side has the round spot and the south side has the square spot. Maybe I've got that mixed up, but it's one side and the other. Okay, it's not fake. Okay, and I hate it because it's like no one fact checked it. There wasn't another comment that disproved it. I was like, guys, we've got to be smarter about this. Another one was the curtains. The curtains in the White House. People didn't realize that the curtains in the Oval Office change. It's decorated. The White House is decorated by the First Lady and partly by the President. And each administration has their own wallpaper, their own curtains and whatever. And these people were saying, see, the wallpaper is different here in this photo and whatever. And I'm like, bro, it changes in each administration. That's the first point. Secondly, there is a grace period where Biden will have Trump's wallpaper because there's a transition period. I worked in building. This stuff takes a little bit of time. They can't just do it in a day. And the wallpaper, when it's being changed, takes time. And so, Biden didn't have his wallpaper yet. By now he probably does, or maybe in a month he'll have it. But the point is, people don't fact check. They don't fact check, and because of it, they leave themselves open to attacks and being called stupid. And I don't want to see that. I want to see a strong people that don't leave themselves open to attacks, people that are articulate, cross their T's, dot their I's, and are very sharp. But that's not what we're seeing right now. And that's all I'm saying. I'm saying be better. That's it. Nothing wrong with that. Nick, you asked who else, where do I get the skills from? Okay, so it's trial and error, okay? So you don't know until you sort of engage in political discourse. That means you need to have a tolerance, to have a very open mind. Now, temperamentally, a lot of people don't have open minds. It's good to constantly surround yourself with people of differing opinions. You need to break out of the echo chamber that I'm often in the danger of falling into. But I try to offset it by purposely going out of my way to have discussions with people I don't agree with, and then also listening to, on top of that, channels that I don't always agree with but raise good points. Now, that doesn't mean you go listen to the Young Turks, or you go listen to Fox News, or you go listen to CNN, or a fake news outlet like CNN or MSNBC. It means you go find people with differing views, however, people who diagnose the situation accurately. For example, there are a lot of progressives like Jimmy Dore, Kyle Kalinske, who are secular talk. They are really good. They have a great record when it comes to talking about issues accurately. Now, are they biased? Absolutely. Am I biased? Absolutely. Nothing wrong with that. The problem comes when you misdiagnose a situation. And unfortunately, the Young Turks have fallen into that in recent years. And it's looking more like the CNN of the internet. And I don't like that. Rage bait. Bull crap. But the thing with what's happening with researching is you get through this through trial and error. What do I mean by that? I'm trying to think of an example. You need to see an event happen, and you need to work out. You need to watch different ways that people report on it. What's a good example of this? I'm trying to think of a good example. For example, let's just say that I drop this on the ground. I throw it on the ground, and it makes international news. And you get people like Stephen Crowder, Tim Pool, and you have MSNBC report on it. Three organizations or three news outlets. Stephen Crowder says, yeah, he threw it to the ground. Tim Pool says, yeah, he threw it to the ground. But he sort of, released it lightly. And then CNN says he smashed it. He smashed it to the ground and he began to stomp on it. It's like, okay, all right, a sec. Okay, hold on a sec. You were right. Tim Pool, there's some overlap there. Where there's overlap, that's the truth. There's no overlap with CNN except the fact that it was put down. That's where the truth is. But CNN went too damn far. They went too damn far. So what I mean, it comes through trial and error. You've got to be following the stuff for a while, and you need to work out the track records of people. For example, Tim Pool's got one of the best track records I've seen on reporting on stuff. Luke Rudkowski, who we talked about this week, him as well. Stephen Crowder, him as well. Intellectually honest people like Kyle Kalinske at Secular Talk, him as well. Jimmy Dore, him as well. Great guys, really good. Those two are progressive, by the way, the last two. CNN, terrible. MSNBC, terrible. They believe conspiracy theories like that Trump colluded with Russia openly. It's like that never happened. What are you talking about? The Mueller report came up with nothing. Trump was acquitted by the Senate the first time. Don't fall into this trap of getting an echo chamber. You asked specifically about Australia, Nick. How do you do your research on finding dirt on people in Australia? That's a great question. I think that you need to find people in Australia that are doing this. Now, I don't have a ton of evidence on Chris Bowen or ScoMo, but what I can offer you is, so I've given you the advice. You need to find people you can listen to that you can trust and they have a good track record. I'm thankful you consider me that. with Chris Bowen, I can tell you some attacks now. Chris Bowen, did you know that he voted against his electorate? Which is a big portion of it is Muslim, actually, and Middle Eastern Christian. He voted against his electorate on the same-sex marriage vote in 2017. That when the vote was done and the nation was consulted, there were 13 areas or suburbs or electorates that voted no. They didn't want same-sex marriage couples to be able to get married in the Australian legal system. Chris Bowen, in the vote in 2017, he voted yes against his electorate. And they never forgived him for it. And there was a 9-point swing against him in the last election. There's blood in the water. And people like Dr. Cafetaris have helped to put it there. If you want a tax on Chris Bowen, Nick, send me a message on Subscribestar. This is one of the privileges you get, guys. You get actually message me on Subscribestar, and I'll actually message back straight away within 24 hours. Send me a message. I'll actually pass on the email of Dr. Cafetaris, and you can send him an email asking him for some attacks on Chris Bowen, and mate, he will unload. He is very good. He's met with Chris Bowen many times, and he's warned Chris Bowen, if you don't address religious freedom, and if you don't deal with this unfinished business from what you did voting against your electorate, you're screwed. You're screwed. Let's see what super chat questions we got here. Ooh, would you look at that? Okay. Nick Page has asked this question. What do you think of Brett Sutton saying that pro-choice anti-vaxxers make up only 1.5% of the population at best? Media is trying so hard. I don't know what he's basing that off. I really don't. I mean, as I said in today's episode, Nick, we had a situation where, we had that poll from news poll from what was his name? We had the news poll that came out, and it was done over 100,000 people. And, I don't know where Brett Sutton's getting this figure from. 1.5% of the Australian population. I'd like to see what he's basing that off. Maybe he's got something solid that I haven't seen. But I'd strongly disagree with it. Especially if you go to the areas in the western suburbs where there's a lot of ethnic people that live out there, my people, the Lebanese and Syrian and other Middle Easterners and, the Greeks and the Indians and the Italians and the Muslims. A lot of people oppose this vacation or injection into the arm. So I would strongly recommend Brett Sutton being very specific about where he got that from. I'd love to ask him a follow-up question, but the media don't do that. But I'm not in Victoria. I can't do that. We need good journalists down there in Victoria to ask him that question. I think it's crap. I reckon it's a bit more, obviously. But who knows? Who knows? Anyway, guys, I'm going to call it a wrap there. Remember to give this a like right now. Remember, it helps with the algorithms. It really, really does. I mean it. When people actually do that, the algorithm sees that they like it. They recommend it not only to the same people again, but it recommends it to other people as well. So it gives me a greater reach. And I really appreciate that. Wow, we went for an hour, 50 minutes. I should finish with a closing message, shouldn't I? I love what I'm seeing. I'm incredibly optimistic about the future. I'm incredibly optimistic about what it holds. I like to see what's going on in Australia for the better. I like seeing individuals rise up. I like seeing what's happening in Victoria, especially. But I really hope that we see a situation where more Australians wake up, and I'm really optimistic about what's happening here in Australia with people. I can't wait for the next federal election. We'll know a bit better where things are tracking. Can more be done? Absolutely. A ton more can be done. A lot of people are sitting on their hands. A lot of people are in analysis paralysis. I'm doing what I can to support local businesses through this show, and also support you guys with giving you the best information I can find. But other countries it's not the same. The UK is doing terribly right now. They're just coming out of lockdowns in May or something like that. America has a ton of work, but I think they'll come out of it. They're going to go through some very rough times, but that's okay. But guys, thank you very much for listening to the show. Please remember to subscribe on Subscribestar. It's what keeps the show going, and I mean that. I really do. And please go to alternative media platforms. The alternative to this is Rumble, which is totally free. And at this stage, there's no ads on it. And so please go subscribe there. If you lose me here, I'll be there. I might even be joining Twitch soon in the event that I can't actually live stream on Twitch. But yeah, no, thank you very much, guys. I've seriously enjoyed it. And here's to another week. Give it a like, give it a share, and I'll see you guys next week.